Hey, Paul.
Hey Tim, how are you, man?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, like you said, I'm up in Calgary at the moment.
Oh, good. I've even got my tea.
Where's my tea? Look, I'm in a giant, empty, cavernous
Oh,
room about to
there's
do a
no
read
tea
through.
there.
No tea. I need it. I need it. Man, I just want to say first up, like that film, that film hit different. It was just amazing. And that scene at the end, I well up if I think about it. There was something in
Oh,
that movie, and
hey, me too, brother. No, I mean, seriously, when I watch it again, I've seen it several times now because it's on Amazon, but I think about that day that we shot it and everything that led up to it. It's just spectacular, beautiful feeling.
incredible. Yeah, incredible, and must be so gratifying for you.
Yeah,
Just the path that's led here, and like how personal it was as well. Like
right.
it's
Well,
like it's the dream.
and to be able, see, I've done so much theater out here in
Mm,
LA and in Chicago, where I really got my roots from in Chicago theater,
mm,
Steppenwolf, and all those kind of things that were going on in the city as far as uh, acting goes. I've had some great. I've been involved in some great theatrical productions. I've had some great moments on stage. I've done Mammoth. I've done all these things, and then to be able to get an opportunity to do a scene like you were just talking about
yeah,
and have that kind of emotional response and a partner like
yeah,
Riz Ahmed
yeah,
is incredible. So yeah, that's gratifying to say the least.
yeah,
I'm so blessed to be able to have gotten to do this part.
yeah. And you talk about it being resonant. I mean, I guess for me it's like the therapy years in a way, but like that whole addiction story and the whole all these themes in it, like it just it's like when I say it hits different, it's like it's special. So, but
Right, right.
anyway, I just wanted you to know that there are people out there responding to it like this, and it's yeah,
Hmm.
it's really something. So, congrats on
I
that.
appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm hearing from people, uh, musicians especially, because I'm in a band also, and I
Yeah,
know a lot of musicians, and it really hits them the addiction, the tinnitus in the
yeah.
ears from the constant. That's a real thing, man. Real thing.
Well, it's funny you say that because it turns out we were connected because I have a little bit of a musical background as well. I actually used to make a living before I was working in entertainment as a DJ.
Oh,
So all through my teen years, I was in clubs I wasn't old enough to be in, playing music incredibly loud into my ears. And in my
wow.
early 20s, I started getting really mild tinnitus symptoms, and I just instantly like started dealing with it, like headphone, earplugs when going out and stuff. But like that story there, it's like, yeah, you talk about it being personal. Like I was resonating with that. That was my fear, like
Right.
being a musician.
Well, when Riz hears that in the movie, when he hears that like in his ear, that's the kind of thing that I have in my right ear, and that is scary because everything stops, and you're like, wait a minute, how long is this going to last? And then he eventually goes away. But anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. I got it. I got it once for like a minute. One of the sides dropped out for a
Yes.
minute, and I was just like, it was scary as hell. I
Yeah.
can't even tell you. I mean, you know. It's just
Yeah.
it's that feeling of like I can't fix this.
No, you're helpless. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Um, I tell you what, I should introduce myself a little bit. I'm a producer,
Ah.
and I actually work with puppets. I work for the Jim Henson Company. So the reason I'm up in Calgary at the moment is we're filming a reboot of Fraggle Rock, but I do want to produce independently, um, in time. And with that in mind, one of the things I just kind of wanted to ask you was, as a producer, I'm like always looking for stories and all this attention you're getting, and all this profile that this gives you. I'm just curious if there are like stories that you feel like you can now tell, given the right, collaborators.
Oh yeah. Well, in the position that I'm in, I know a lot of deaf and disabled people out in the community. And so I kind of consider myself to be like a curator of sorts with materials that people have brought to me, different stories from the deaf community, from uh, people that are activists or working as activists in Los Angeles for, let's say, street walk, boardwalk access to wheelchairs, things like that. So there are some things that I'm hoping to bring to some producers that bring some light on that. In other words, the disenfranchised people out there that you'll only see in movies as a side character or as a comic diversion, or there they are. You see, instead of having them front and center, what is their life like? I'm fascinated that today transgender people are, it's almost, I don't mean to be flip about it, but they're almost like, hey, somebody just made that up now because now we're all aware. Well, guess what? I can think back to me being in high school in the 60s, and I had friends like that were in my class, but at the time we didn't think that they were transgender. You call them what you call them, or you think what you think. And we have evolved to the point where now people that are disenfranchised get a chance to be brought up to the screen. I think that's going to be happening more and more now because of movies like Sound of Metal.
No, I think you're absolutely right, and I'm just kind of curious as a producer how we can service those kind of stories in through the lens of the deaf community in particular. Like, what is it we can do as producers to tell those stories in a more honest way?
Specifically, within the deaf community, there is a saying, "Nothing about us without us," and Darius learned that lesson right away by employing deaf people to be as consultants or to be on the set, actually see what's going on. They have a deaf ASL master on the set for the language purposes. So you can just, one thing deaf people hate is when they see people coming to me and asking me, Paul Raci, about them. They don't like that. That's not good. If you want to know something about them, they're right over there. I'll be happy to facilitate communication between the two of you as an interpreter or whatever, but just ask them. And that goes for any community. Just ask them. So, and producers, maybe the producing world just needs to be a little bit more open and a little more aware, just an awareness, jack that up a little bit, and just know that there are other stories to be told out there. This whole world is not all able-bodied people and all white people running around. And there's all this other stuff going on. And so just be open to that a little bit more. Disabled people or disenfranchised communities, they have love lives, they have needs, they have desires, they have foibles, just like Tim O'Brien, just like Paul Raci, the same thing. Hopes and dreams, the same thing. If you're a black actor in Hollywood, how about being a deaf black actor? Try that. Be a deaf black actor in Hollywood and see how hard it is to get a job. Nobody is writing a role for that. My agent is a couple of deaf actors. She has to actually recommend to somebody, hey, this in this casting list here, what if this guy here was a deaf guy? And sometimes they go, that's interesting. Come on. Just got to open up a little bit because they're out there. It's plentiful.
One of my favorite TV shows of 2 years ago was Euphoria on HBO, and they have the trans character, Jules. And what I thought was so good about that was it was so secondary to her character.
Yeah.
She was not defined by the fact she was trans.
And there you go.
I always say that's exactly it, right? It's just like,
it's exactly
it's
so in The Sound of Metal, when you see deaf addicts, oh Lord, deaf addicts, where did that come from? I thought deaf people were just very quiet. Well, they're actually, deaf people are the noisiest people on the face of the earth. And yes, there are some deaf addicts. So I mean, that was one of the gratifying things when the deaf community started talking to me about the movie. About that was a really refreshing thing for them to see portrayed on the screen, instead of whatever else you've seen, a side character or comic relief or whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the other thing about that movie I thought was, the way they did the sound design. I just thought that was such an incredible, like visceral insight into it for someone who, doesn't have hearing issues. So just to be able to like put yourself in that perspective for a moment, it's
When we saw the movie in Toronto, my wife was with me. She's totally deaf on her left ear, nothing in there. And the right ear, she has about this much left, about 30%. And we watched the movie on the big screen with the big soundtrack at TIFF in Toronto. And she just poked me and in tears in her eyes, she said, "That's how it sounds like for me. That's what it's like for me, Paul."
oh my goodness.
And so they hit something right with that soundtrack. That is for sure. Yeah.
But anyway, thank you so much.
Man,
Really enjoyed chatting to you. And
same here. I appreciate it. And I'm almost done with my tea.
all the best, Paul.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.